Hey everyone, welcome back. In this tutorial we are going to be working on movable platforms as well as movable obstacles that can harm our character. So it's going to take a little bit of what we know and add some new fun stuff to that. So let's go ahead and get started. I'd like you to head over to the basic tab on the side over here and then grab a basic static mesh. Now I'm going to grab a cylinder because I kind of messed up my cube, and I'm going to kind of walk you through some steps so you don't do that as well, because I got to figure out how to restore that now. But I'm going to drag over a cylinder, and then once the cylinder's on the stage, I want you to right click on it and go to browse to asset, just like we did for the third person character, and it should open up the basic shapes on the bottom over here. This is my cylinder, and this is the one that's the default cylinder that's used in Unreal. So I don't want to modify this one, I want to create a copy essentially. So right click on that, go to duplicate, and I'm just going to rename this one to platform. Okay, so it's virtually the same thing, except now I can modify this one and not worry about destroying the default object. So I'm going to delete the one that's on the stage and now drag over a platform. It doesn't have its texture on it, but that's perfectly fine. It will still operate the same way. So I'm going to just raise it up and then use my R key to adjust the scale of this object. So let's make it bigger and thinner, and I'm going to lower it to the ground a little bit. Okay, so that'll be my platform. And let's, now that we have that set, we're going to change it from a static mesh to something that's movable. So with it selected, in your details over here where it says mobility, I'd like you to turn it to movable. And this is static, right, what it's on right now. I would like you to check the movable box. After you've done that, we're going to edit its cinematics. So go over to cinematics and then go to add matinee. Okay, and select that. It's going to open up something that looks like this. And I am going to apologize in advance. My screen's resolution, this is a 4K monitor, it seems to like really make things small. So just do your best to try to follow my my mouse, and we'll make do. Okay, let's go ahead and begin. I'm just going to adjust the screen a little bit. I don't really need any of these tools right now, so I'm just going to kind of cover them. And over here, I'm going to zoom out with the scroll wheel a little bit so I can see the numbers better. Hopefully you can see everything decently well. And on the side over here, I'm going to right click and go to add new empty group. Okay, we're going to call this group platform 1, and this will just be the first platform. If we create 10 platforms, we can create a lot of different groups. And I'm going to press enter. It's going to generate platform 1, and on the word platform 1, I'm going to select the object in Unreal, and then right click on platform 1, go to actors, and select add selected actors. So now the platform's been added to platform 1, and I will click on platform 1 one more time and then go over to add new movement track and select that. Okay, so now we have a movement that is associated with platform 1. On the bottom, you should see like some little red and green little arrow things. This is just your time sequence, like how much time this entire event's going to take place over. And we can increase it past 5 seconds, but 5 seconds for this seems fine. So I'm going to move this stick out of the way. That's just what time you're currently on. I'm going to drag this all the way over to 5 seconds. Okay, so that's been dragged over. At the start, at 0, you might also notice there's this little red arrow up here. I selected it, but it's really tiny. Hopefully on your screen it's more visible and you can select it. That is just your keyframe, and right now it's just its stationary position exactly where it's at. Okay, so I'm going to duplicate that keyframe by holding down Control and pressing W. Okay, and you might notice that it created a second keyframe right next to the first one. So I'm going to move that second one by holding down Control and then holding down the left click on it and then dragging it over to the end of that 5 seconds. Okay, so that's just the beginning and the end, and they're both in the exact same position. Now that we've moved both of those in place, I'm going to select somewhere between halfway between both of them, and I'm going to go back to my game. I'm going to select the platform, and I'm going to move it up like that. Okay, so I just moved up the platform and raised it. And then I'm going to go to add key and click on that, and I've added a new keyframe over there, such that if I went ahead and I pressed loop, you'll notice that it runs the animation of raising the platform up and down. Okay, I'm going to go ahead, save this, and it's going to pop up with a message. Just press yes. And then before it actually works, because if I ran the game right now, you'll notice that it doesn't actually do anything. Super exciting. Before you run the game itself, there's like this little hidden icon. Where is it? It's like a little camera. It's usually not hidden. Where'd it go? Is that it down here? I just saw it. There it is. Oh, what is it doing down there? Okay. It's usually not like hiding. It's usually next to the object itself. Okay, there's this little icon, this camera thingy. It spawns with the movable matinee thing. And you just want to find it, you want to select it, and then on the bottom here where it says play on level, when level is loaded, you want to check that box, and the one that says looping, you want to check that box as well. Okay, and now when you play your game, you're going to notice that the platform moves up and down. Okay, so I'm going to jump on the platform. Woo. There you go. So that's just like one possibility for the platform. You can do a whole lot more with it. So don't just think like, oh, that's pretty much all you can do. Just to show you real quick what I mean by that, I'm going to jump back over to the keyframe here. I'm going to go back to that one when it was at its highest point. And at its highest point, let's say, maybe it not only moved, but it also rotated. Okay, so I'm going to put a rotate in there as well. And now close out of this. Hopefully that's saved. And now look what happens. Okay, so it still goes in its default position, but now it rotates. So it'll do anything you tell it to, and it doesn't have to be one keyframe. It can be multiple keyframes as well. So that's just something to keep in mind. You know, it could be a good like partial obstacle that you could start on, but then you have to get off of it rather quickly. And my jump mechanics are still a little bit weak at this point. Okay, so obviously that's a really cool platform, but we might also want to make it so that the platform damages us. So we'd have to essentially alter its blueprints. And I'm going to show you this, and then we're going to continue this in the next tutorial. But to add a blueprint to this object, I have to have it selected, and then I go to add blueprint on the side over here. Okay, I can name it something like platform blueprint, that's fine, and I would create the blueprint. Okay, now the unfortunate part is the second I created that blueprint, if I decided to close out of it and I added all my enemy stuff to it and I hit play, it's not going to move. Okay, so there's actually a slightly different but very similar approach that we're going to have to go into to make this an actual damaging object. So I'm going to talk about that in the next video, and I'll see you then. Peace.